welcome back. We are really sorry for the technical difficulties and we hope it was not too disruptive for your viewing. So I think we've got you watched maybe 5 minutes of it, and so hopefully now we've got the bad technological karma out of the way. The rest of the panel will continue smoothly. So I hope the 5 minutes that you watched was really impactful, was really good. You can watch the rest of the show on Jason's YouTube channel later on as well. But for now, we've come to the Q&A portion of it where we have Jason and Mervyn. And so now we really have the opportunity where we can ask our questions to the director, to the producer, and so it's really a golden opportunity. Earlier, Jason and Mervyn also told me that this is their first time really being on a panel and specifically being on a panel for this show. So you won't find your answers to these questions anywhere else online. You'll find it only here tonight. And so if you have any questions, feel free to comment, to ask a question on the YouTube Live, and I'll be more than happy to ask those questions for you. But maybe I'll just start with the first question. And so could you just share a little bit more about the creation of this show, about the process of making it? How was that like for you?
I think for the viewing, it was really a response to the beginning of COVID, right? When we started to hear news about the Wuhan virus, and then how people start to kind of blame, some countries for it. We start to kind of do name pointing and things like that, and especially in Singapore, we start to see news of people shunning each other, and particularly foreign counterparts who stay within and stay among us.
Yeah.
And I think this is quite saddening to see, because we are supposed to be a cohesive society, right? We are supposed to, no matter what, we should help one another. We should be there to support regardless of race, language, or even nationality, right? So I feel that this short film came about as a response to that.
I see. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Mervyn.
I will share more about the production issue of this short film, because it was being produced in a time of uncertainty where rules keep changing almost every day.
Yeah.
So we thought instead of going to different locations, we should plan it to revolve around one location, ideally in a house. So we did. And it was quite interesting to be filming during that period. We were filming in the house, but some of us, the crew, the non-essential crew, were hanging around outside along the corridor.
Oh.
Yeah, and there was
you couldn't go in.
We can't go in.
Maximum
we had to, there were some limitations, right?
Right.
And we observed the social distancing.
Yes.
However, I think some concerned residents, they reported to the town council.
Oh no!
We really had our production shut down, but we assured them, we followed everything to the T.
Yeah.
So that was, we sorted it out.
Okay. Okay. Wow. Oh my gosh! I'm glad this film got made in the end.
Yeah. And to share a little tidbit, after this shoot, a week after, the nation announced the circuit breaker. So we were blessed to complete this short film.
Oh wow, so how long was it from the start of the shooting to the end, or maybe the conceptualization?
It was 2 weeks actually.
2 weeks.
It was a very quick
2
turnaround time.
Wow.
Yes, because this project is actually part of IMDA's initiative of SG United. So they hope to have stories, to kind of motivate the public to stay united, to stay together. And this explains the very fast turnaround time. Plus, we are chasing against time literally because of the whole situation of uncertainty and all that. And in fact, the film was released on the first day of circuit breaker.
Oh wow.
Yes. Yeah. That was how tight
very
it
good
was.
timing.
Yes.
I see. So how were the cast and the crew? How many people did you have in the end?
As you can see in the short film, we had Karen and we have Vincent playing the property agent, and the couple, Carrie and her husband. Yeah. And also Karen's, what's her son's name? In the show?
Braden.
Braden.
Yes.
We wanted to work with Braden for the longest time, so we found the opportunity to work with him. Yeah, so that's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 casts.
Okay.
Crew, we tried to minimize it, but still we need to have people responsible for art, for lights and stuff like that. Yeah. So for art, usually I would love to have 2 people, but we have to cut down to 1 person.
I see.
Yeah, stuff like that.
Okay. What were the casting decisions like? How did you decide on the specific cast?
The casting was pretty easy, right?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, us and mine.
Ah,
So yeah, so
okay.
I think we were just speaking about, oh, let's just do this. Yeah, and with these talents, and
I
then yeah,
see,
so
okay.
it was quite a straightforward process. Yeah,
Mm.
and we are quite confident, or we are very confident that they could deliver, and they did, right? I think.
Yeah, they
So
did.
so we were blessed lah to
I
have a very good team.
Mm.
Yes.
Could
Yeah.
you explain a little bit more about like the use of comedy to raise like these serious issues? Like why do you do that? What was the choice in doing that?
Right. I think the choice was made on few basis. Firstly, it was because I've always been wanting to do comedies.
Oh, okay.
I've always done a lot
Is
of
this your
drama.
first?
Yes, actually, one of my
Oh.
first. I mean, I tried to have some light-hearted moments in
Uh-huh.
my drama-y kind of short films, but I'm kind of like tired of it. You know, I think I should do something like more fun.
Full
You know,
on.
yeah, and also I think it's a very nice contrast because we have a very serious issue. You can't tackle it with a very serious kind of perspective. It has to take on a more light-hearted perspective, and when you laugh at it, you're actually laughing at yourself. You know, sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
one of the reasons we relate to jokes is because we can kind of see ourselves in it, or we've been in the situations before.
Yeah.
So
We
I
can
thought
relate.
that a very natural genre for me to fall into it's comedy for this topic of this nature.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think you see yourself making more comedies in the future after this?
Hopefully, shall we?
Yeah, we should.
Yes, I think
I
hopefully
see.
we could.
Okay. So, this film was really shot just before CB and was really shot in response to kind of people's reactions to some nationalities. So, can you share a little bit more about what you hoped to achieve with this film?
We can start first.
Yeah, sure.
I hope that when the film is out, I don't think it would change the world. I've never thought of making a film to change the world. But if at that moment after you watch the film and it could make you realize or learn something, I think that's the greatest impact that you could have. Yeah.
What do you hope your audience would learn or realize?
I think it's up for them to interpret. Everybody comes from a very different backgrounds,
Yeah.
As long as you find some elements in it that relate to you, and you could kind of derive a learning point from it, regardless of what it is, I'm happy. I'm contented. Yeah. So I don't have a specific like, oh, this is a moral message you must learn.
Right.
Because we're all adults, right?
Yeah,
So I hope that they could have a takeaway at the very least, or at least have some critical thinking, to reflect upon their own lives. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's especially important, right?
Yes.
For like interactions with people, relationships with people.
Exactly.
Often we just go about in a very robotic way.
Exactly.
We just continue doing the same thing.
Yes.
Yeah, it's only when something strikes us, when you have that it moment, and then that's when maybe something will change.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
Exactly what you're saying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I
pretty-
echo Jason's sentiments as well. We didn't create this short film to preach to people.
Yeah.
And what do you want to say? Sorry. Yeah. So yeah, I believe that when we made a short film and we release out to the public, the story is theirs for them to interpret. Yeah. It's up to their own open interpretation. Yeah. And we hope that watching this short film can introduce a little bit more empathy to people. Everyone's facing a bad time now.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can like treat each other with more kindness, more respect, the world will be a greater place.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yep.
How else do you think we could maybe go about kind of inculcating this empathy, this kindness and respect in society through the arts,
Through the arts.
or in any other form that you think would be good?
I think it's a long-term and ongoing exercise. So I've been making films that touches on empathy. I've done like documentaries, talk about the migrant workers, and now this about PRs who are with us in Singapore, and facing this COVID situation together with us. So we have to come together and be cooperative.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah, you're exactly right. What were other challenges that you faced when making this film? Just now you mentioned about kind of the space constraint and like people report you to town council. Were there other challenges that you faced?
Jason mentioned that we did this short film in under 2 weeks,
Yeah.
pre-production and even post-production
also?
as well.
Oh wow.
From a usually I would prefer to have at least 1 month of pre-production.
Oh.
Yeah, and maybe 2 weeks of editing.
Wow.
But everything has to be compressed, condensed into 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wow, it's like a timeline for the vaccine.
Yeah, has to be compressed to this 2
Uh-huh.
weeks. Yeah.
Oh.
So that's quite a
Yeah,
challenge.
it's always chasing against time,
I
you know.
see.
Yeah.
Even right before the day we shoot, I had to change some parts of the script and things like
Oh.
that. So that was, I think, the challenge. We did not have time for rehearsals. But then again, we are thankful that we have, you know, Karen, Vincent. They are
Yeah.
quite prominent in their own
And it's
ways.
quite experienced.
So yeah, I think it's all stars align, you know.
I
yeah.
see.
Yeah.
Okay. If you could do something differently, would there be anything that you would
To the
change
film?
about this film? Yeah.
I'm happy with it.
Yeah, I'm happy with it.
Oh, that's great.
Yes.
Satisfied.
So even though we took only 2 weeks and it's
Yep.
really rushed compared
Yep.
to traditional like production where we had more time,
Yeah.
I think I'm very happy and very satisfied with what came out. I think the messaging was there. I think there were some parts where, you know, probably people can just LL at, you know, just laugh at. I think it's something that I'm happy to show. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I LOL at it when I first watched it. Yeah, and then now I'm watching for like the nth time, right? So it's no longer. But then when the first time, yeah, I
Yes.
thought it was really funny because of the ridiculousness of it, right? And it's like you're trying
It's
to
more
hide
like a
it.
satire, I feel. Yes.
They're stretching it to like its extremes.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'm going for the kind of comedy that is like you're supposed to laugh off your chairs, you know. But there's more like a subtle kind of humor that I'm trying to go for. You know, even like I think if you notice, Karen's T-shirt at home is "I love SG," right? So
Yes.
she's supposed to be a very patriotic
Yeah.
Singaporean, right?
Nationalist.
Yes,
Yeah.
but then on the flip side, you know, she is a bit xenophobic. Yeah, and Mervyn had to go around, you know, I think 1 or 2, is it a few days before shoot?
Yeah, a few
Yeah,
days before.
he had to go and find the shirt for Karen to wear. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
so I think we went to Tampines.
Tampines.
Mervyn went to
Bugis
Tampines,
Village.
Bugis, yeah.
Oh wow.
Where
You
all
found
the
it in
tourists
Bugis?
will- We found it, yeah.
Oh.
In the tourist kiosk. You know?
Okay.
Yeah,
Are there other like motifs or symbols that we may have missed from the film?
I think that's really one. Another one, perhaps not so prominent, would be the motive of the bao.
Ah, okay.
Yes. So I think like bao itself is very, very Chinese, but you know, like we all eat the same thing, but yet we have very different mentalities. You know, like Karen versus the foreign couple from China, right? So
Right.
I thought that this is quite symbolic in the way we see the bao itself, right? And also even at the end of the film, right? I think when Karen asks, "Oh, 要吃包吗?" that kind of thing, it's more like a reconciliation where she really thinks that, okay, I think, you know, there is some we are still humans after all, you know. We are in the same.
We still eat.
Yeah, we still eat it, and we are in the same kind of environment. You know, we are still pressured under this COVID situation. We don't know. We are equally lost regardless of where you come from. You know. Yeah.
Exactly. You have to remind people of that, right?
Yes,
that,
exactly.
Yeah, we're all suffering in the same
Exactly.
kind of disease.
Right.
What would you think of, you know, that COVID perhaps is affecting everyone? It's affecting everyone, but not affecting everyone in the same way, because it depends on like maybe our privileges or where we come from. Yeah, do you have any thoughts on that?
Sorry, I wasn't paying attention to the mic drop.
Oh dear.
Sorry.
Okay, no
I think
worries.
it's okay now.
Yeah, you can even
okay.
hold it
Oh,
if
sure.
it's like.
Sorry, can you repeat your question?
Yeah, sure. So then just now you mentioned like how, you know, COVID perhaps has affected people and it's affected people in many of the same ways, but also it's affected different groups of people quite differently.
Yeah.
And so do you have any comment perhaps on like, you know, the way that COVID has affected all of us in very different ways? Okay. Yeah, and how where we come from, our positionalities are also quite important with that.
Okay. I think that maybe I can share a little bit from a student's perspective.
Yeah, sure.
I think that COVID has affected the way we have all seen news about how it changed our lives, right? But I think it really tested what being a human, being part of a society means, right? So like for example in the viewing, right, we see it's not the time to kind of break. It's not the time to do finger pointing, but it's a time to really stay collected.
Right.
And it's a time where we stop differentiating, who is who. We stop placing people on hierarchies because, COVID is just affecting the rich, who has lost businesses, the poor, as well. So we have, prior to COVID, we have been talking about income inequality and things like that. But I think right now the situation is where I think we should stop seeing people differently. We should stop placing people on hierarchies. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Well, Mervyn, do you have...
Actually, I have nothing to add.
Okay, let me just check with my producers if everything is good. Yeah, so we can continue. Okay, thanks. Okay, so let's see. So how do you think this pandemic, like just now you mentioned, the rich have lost businesses, income inequality, right? How do you think it's affected the local film industry? Like locally and abroad, does it have much impact on the film industry?
Right. I think in the first few months of the circuit breaker, it really affected the media and arts industry. Many plays, many productions have to be postponed or even cancelled.
Yeah.
Yeah. And lots of people have to pivot to other professions to temporarily get by. Yeah. So right now, I think it's getting a little bit better.
Okay.
Yeah. So productions that's been postponed has resumed,
Yeah.
and we have more projects coming in.
Yeah.
However, it seems like it's a long-term issue that we have to grapple with. Yeah.
Okay. Are there kind of like creative ways that arts professionals have pivoted towards other professions, or perhaps like other ways to share their art with Singapore and the world?
I think maybe I think that it's really how as like filmmakers, right, try to navigate around this new space, to really think about the stories they want to tell.
Yeah.
I think maybe I speak on behalf of like making the process of making a film, right? So like during pre-COVID days, we can have big crew.
Yep.
Everything, right? But now in COVID period, like what Mervyn has shared, we had to kind of string down, the crew size. We have to limit locations to only one space. But I think it has pushed us to really think creatively on how we can make use of like space, right? Of one location to tell the story. Like this story very essentially is about xenophobia, right? It could be told in many different ways. It could be told in, I don't know, just off my head, you could have a war scene, for example, right? And then you can have you can have different ways of telling it, and you can incorporate like so many people. But at the same time, you could also tell it within just the space of a HDB flat, with just a few characters that showcase that there are, as much as there are disadvantages, there are also merits to it, because you can be pushed to think creatively on what you can explore within your constraints.
And like exactly what your show tries to bring out, right? That this is kind of the new normal, and the theme for reflections this week is the new normal. And so how do we adapt to this new normal? Because it doesn't look like it's going to go away anytime soon. Yeah. So so we got a question from the audience, and so they ask like, what are your personal favorite like films or inspirations?
Wow, personal favorite.
Personal favorite.
You want to start first?
No, you start first.
It's okay, you can take a moment to think about it.
I have
Too many.
couple. Yeah. Oh man. Okay. To really pick one is tough.
You can share your top 5.
I love the film by A Space Odyssey. Yeah, I really love it. It took me a few, many watchings, to really understand, to kind of understand a bit better, what the film is. And I like it because it's very much, it's that kind of challenge that when you watch a film, you don't understand it for the first time, but then you rewatch and then you start to really pick out certain things in it, that, maybe that's what he or she is trying to do. And I don't think that I need to know what exactly the filmmaker is thinking of, but if I could find an answer to what I think he might be thinking, that satisfies me a lot. And that is how I kind of love that film he makes. So Space Odyssey is one of them.
Right.
Another film that I really love, it's actually by Edward Young. So he's a Taiwanese director.
Okay.
He directed this film called Yi. I think it's quite popular lah. Yeah, that took me a while to understand as well. But eventually, I think I understood it a little bit better, where it's really an exploration of the human condition. So I think I love a lot of films. I've been watching a lot of them, especially during COVID, right? We all just spend it at home.
Right?
So what do? Netflix or like torrent some shows to watch.
Yeah.
I appreciate. I'm a mainstream kind of guy, so my go-to filmmaker is Christopher Nolan. I think I watched his Inception for like 12 times.
Wow.
Yeah, because of the concepts that he bring into the to filmmaking is mind-blowing, especially in his latest film, Tenet, right? If you have watched it, it's still mind-blowing.
Yeah.
A local, not a local, a regional director would be Hirokazu Koreeda. So he's a Japanese filmmaker, director, and I think he writes his own stories. So his stories focus more on the family unit. There's this movie called Still Walking. Yeah, without spoiling the plot. I appreciate how he can use a mundane event where everyone comes together, the family comes together, and he explores the family relationship. Yeah, from a superficial point of view, it looks fine. But when you look deep into it, there's so much tension, from the son to the mother, from the wife to the husband, so much to explore. So,
and that really describes the kind of human condition that we can all relate to, right? Like this tension in our relationships. Yeah, actually, last week, Sanif mentioned that one of his inspirations is also Space Odyssey. So I think I really have to watch it. If both notable filmmakers that came on this panel both say Space Odyssey, there's got to be something there. Okay.
Right.
How do you all see yourself kind of growing as a filmmaker and as a producer? Because both of you are pretty young, and so how do you see yourself kind of developing and growing in these roles?
Right. I think, maybe I can start first.
Yeah, sure.
For me, I'm still in uni right now. So I don't know how this will take me.
Okay.
I don't know whether if this will eventually be a career that I take up, but that will definitely, that part of filmmaking will stay in me. I foresee myself really hoping to hone my craft further and make more short films. It's always to never stop making. And I think for me, ideas come to me not every day, but I do have ideas coming up to me, and I just don't want that to stop.
Oh wow.
Sometimes I would just, what if this happens, or what if that happens, and I always love to entertain myself with these thoughts, especially in the bathroom or before you sleep, right? So I hope that continues, and that I feel that when I take these ideas into action, right, I hope that I could grow myself further, and also to be a bit more observant in terms of what's going on around in society. I think that these are things I can pick up and shape my storytelling, just like the viewing was a response, right, to that the previous situation where we had so many people coming up to kind of shun people, xenophobic comments, were made on Facebook. So these are things that I feel pertinent to talk about, to discuss. And they're extremely relevant, right, in this period. Exactly.
And it's not and xenophobia is not a concept that will go away anytime soon.
Yes.
Just now you mentioned to me that 200 years ago it was here, 200 years later it will still be here.
Yes.
It's about how we deal with it, or how we kind of navigate ourselves and our society around it to really show what kind of people we are.
Yes. And many a times it's more I don't think making a film is you are really preaching like what Mervyn has mentioned. I could be xenophobic at one point, right? I could be racist. I mean, we do this to ourselves, that this is not what we want to become. And I think that films become that very important avenue to remind ourselves of that. And I'm very happy and very it really drives me forward to know that I'm part of that process.
It's great.
Yeah.
Okay, Mervin, maybe you'd like to have a last word.
Okay, all right. So I'm nearly 40, so I wouldn't say I'm young.
I could not
I'm
tell.
young at heart.
Yes,
Yeah,
for sure.
Right. So I am in this industry. I've been in this industry for 15 years.
Oh, wow.
And I would say every production has its own challenge. And yeah. And to persevere in this journey is this, as what Jason has said, is our burning desire to tell stories, and especially in Singapore, burning topics such as xenophobia, even the talking about the underprivileged is a work in progress.
Yes.
Yeah, and
yes.
we should always continue to highlight these issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then especially with film, right? This is one of the ways that we can reach an audience that is otherwise untapped. You know, it's a lot easier maybe to watch something rather than read something or discuss. And so yeah, it's really a topic that is like further, and that is brought further, and there's really now it comes into the public kind of sensing when they watch films about it. Yeah, so now we've come to the end of today's, and so thank you so much for joining us, and so we trust that you had a meaningful and entertaining time. So if you did, be sure to catch the many events and reflections over the next couple of weeks. So you catch the live premiere of Rewind by RP Chinese Ensemble and String Ensemble tomorrow, and Verandiering by RP Operation Theatre on Friday. Both of these shows will be streamed on our YouTube channel at 8 p.m. But that's not all, because on our second episode of our vodcast series next week, The Red Dot Baroque will be featuring a fun program that highlights 17th century Western music performed on period instruments. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on Instagram and Facebook for more updates on Reflections 2020. So join us again for our final installment of this film screening series with Randy Ang next week with the theme of inclusivity and compassion. Have a great night.